to remember Grandpa Leonard Johnson, Grandpa, father, brother, friend, son, well, maybe not son, but it's interesting to be able to do this weekend in particular because it's Father's Day. That's not as easy as I thought it would be to say, but it's interesting that it's today, and tomorrow will be the first day that we have to celebrate without him. I haven't spent enough time in the last decade to give as much time to him as I wished. But no matter what, I always felt my grandfather loved me and cared for me. He's been around as long as I can remember, even since before. I remember my mom told me years ago that both my grandma and my grandpa smoked, and this was a thing back in the day. They were like, "Oh, that's not good for kids," and so my mom told them, "You know, if you want to see Ryan, you're gonna have to quit." And my grandma was committed to it, and so she quit. But my grandpa said that if you hold out for 6 months, I'll quit. And 6 months to the day, he did. And cold turkey, no fallbacks, nothing. That was the start of my grandfather's love for me. And I remember hearing that my grandma and my grandpa wanted to get married the day that I was born, but me being as stubborn as I was and always being late for literally everything, my mom told them, just go ahead, get married. So on December 13th, they did. And then I came like a week and a day later. I remember their house in Lodi. I remember being a little kid, 4 or 5 years old, and seeing my grandpa at Kmart, and him always wearing those short sleeve shirts, button-ups, and he always greeted us really well, and we'd run across the store trying to find him, and it was the funnest thing, and just always just a joy. I remember Christmases when it was just loud Christmas music and, you know, Bud Light in the background and Christmas trees and lights and decorations and family all around, and of course little chaoses here and there, my brother and I, and even my dad. As time had gone by, I realized that he had always had a bench, and we always sat next to each other whenever we visited when I was younger. And I remember being able to swing my legs on the chair while we'd sit, and we just literally look out over the driveway and watch cars drive by for hours on end, and it was a fun time. I remember going fishing with him a couple times, and I was terrible at it, so there's not any pictures of fish with me. But Grandpa was a really good hunter, and spent a lot of time committing to that craft. And I remember the first elk that he got was in '97. I remember that my dad went out with him, and this was supposed to be the one and done. You could only do it once here, and well, I guess he got a couple other chances at that. One of the things, since Grandpa passed, I was at work when it happened, and this is one of the hardest days I've had. A couple of weeks later, I ended up having a conversation with my mom, and if anybody knew my dad, he was a complicated person, and so I realized that when I look back at my life, my mom was right. She said, your grandpa was more of a father to you than your dad. He was always resolute, always very firm in how he approached things. He was very calm. There's only a few times that I ever saw him angry, and it was usually that silent stirrings walking around, and just, he kept to himself when he was angry. I don't remember ever hearing him yell or scream. I always just remember him being quiet, and then eventually he'd come back around, and I even remember once where he apologized. He just said, I was just kind of frustrated, and left it be at that. But I remember years ago I wrote a little poem for him about how my grandpa is John Wayne, and the whole point of it was just the fact that he was always somebody I looked up to. It didn't matter what the time was. If you were there, you were the most important person there in the room. He always was willing to share a story, and he spoke often of, I remember our last conversation, or a couple of our last conversations, and it was him talking about management at Kmart, and how he was trying to give me tips on how to be a better manager. And I appreciated that a lot. And I don't know if I always got him on the best days, but I never once had a situation where I felt that he was lacking in personality or memory for the stories that he shared. I also remember having spent and lived a year with my grandparents, that was probably one of the best times in my life, in reflection, because my parents were trying to run a business and they didn't have enough time to stick around and take care of us, and our grandparents, stepped out on a limb and took us on. And we were young, rowdy and obnoxious and children and boys. And they took us on. My grandma taught, my grandfather helped to keep us entertained, and just made sure that every day was something special. And it was funny because it was always just simple things, simple days, but they were the best. I remember spending time in his shop making toys. The dumbest things. He didn't understand why I was making what I was making or what they were, but he was helping. He'd make and put engineering into it. I remember watching him glaze clocks and make sure that they were nice and shiny, and heating them up so that the bubbles would rise out and they wouldn't have those imperfections. Interestingly, I never thought of my grandfather as much of an artist, but yet you look in his shop and there's dozens of clocks, and there's dozens of clocks around the county and maybe even around the country, just that he made, and both of antlers and horns, and he did busts and stuff. And he made furniture, of which we have several pieces at home, and those are valued pieces. They're things that nobody else could make because, well, he was the only one. And it wasn't that he was the best carpenter in the world, but he put his best into them. I realize over the last month and a half, I lost two grandfathers, and it's difficult because both meant different things. I didn't actually get to spend a lot of time with my grandpa Wayne, but I was able to spend a lot of time with my grandpa Leonard. And as I grew up, it was a mixed family. We entered in, we connected, and he made sure that I always felt loved and cared for. And I always remember him just making the best of all circumstances. And I know that my family have always kind of been the black sheep. I know that we've put a lot of stress on him and my grandma, and they didn't deserve half of what they got. But in the same note, neither did we. We deserved worse, and they gave better. And my grandpa helped to lead the way in that regard. When my dad passed, I took on the responsibility to kind of head up his memory, and that seemed easier than this. The best memories. The best memories that I have with Grandpa Leonard, and I feel that the people here help to memorialize that, to corroborate that. There's decades of pictures of people, and there was a pride that he had in his family and his friends. And when he could, he would do his best. And honestly, I'm deeply blessed to be able to have Justin to be here and take care of him and my grandma. Thank you, Aunt Nay, for picking such a gorgeous spot and place. Thank you to all of you who have come for support, and thank you for the time. Thank you for those who've come across the country, driven, flown, all of it. We appreciate all of you, and you all are a part of a legacy. Each of you have a seed that can grow and that represents what Grandpa left behind. And it's not without merit, it's not without value, it's not without purpose. It's my firm belief that we'll get to see him in heaven. He wasn't much of a religious man, but I remember several times, him in his own way. Yeah, me and the man upstairs, we're on good terms, we're okay. And I always appreciated that. I appreciated that simplicity. And there was a devotion. I always appreciated his devotion to my grandma. I know that sometimes the family that she has, my part of the family, is complicated. But again, he never blamed my brother and I for mistakes made. Bringing it back, all of you were precious and valued by him. You can tell by the smile on his face in most of those pictures. And I know for a fact that he is blessed by each of you. You are family, you are friends, and I can't tell you how much it means to me to be able to see each of you here. When my dad passed, only one person was able to show up, or well, my uncle. This is proof. This is proof of all that he did. And I know that he wasn't a perfect man. He made mistakes. And I can guarantee you that he regretted those, and he tried to make amends as best he could. And I know that he, in the life that he shared with me, he made amends a lot, trying to make sure that I was cared for and knew that I was loved. I never felt judged, never felt harmed by him. And I know that he loved all of us. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I have one little thing that I need to read for my mom, because she wasn't able to be here due to stresses and hardships and stuff. She says, "Leonard was my dad for 45 years. He listened. He really listened to me. He was the best thing to happen to our family. He treated us with love and understanding always. One thing he did for my sister and I was at Christmas time, he would get a gift for us just from him. I still have the earrings. He leaves a bigger hole than I could possibly describe. Bye, Dad. I love you." That's just one of, I'm sure, many thoughts. And so if anybody else would like to step up and share a memory, we would absolutely love and enjoy to hear it. If not, please hold them in your heart and just think of memories and good times, because that's what he leaves behind. And just like my mom said, he leaves a far bigger hole than can ever be filled. Thank you.